Hello everyone, long time no see. Welcome back to Mentally Interesting, the channel where you can learn English, Korean, or Yakut, and you can also get tips on how to learn languages, how to be a polyglot, and other such language related material if I can manage to speak English. Um, so today I want to talk about how you can learn a language. Stay with me. There's a lot more to it than that, but I want to give some tips on for beginners on how to get started learning a language. And I've been on YouTube for a while as a viewer, and I see like a lot of good materials. I'm not going to knock nobody's materials, but there's a lot of videos like how to learn a language. How did I learn a language? I learned Spanish in 5 days. How to learn Russian in 5 weeks. Stuff like that. Um, and I just want to address some of that and also give my tips. So, me addressing that would be like. I'm sorry, I hate to laugh, but it's like if your goal is to go to Spain in a few weeks or Mexico and speak Spanish in that time, you can do it. But in all reality, most people, their goal tends to be how can I learn Spanish? How can I be out there like, hola mami, ¿qué pasó? ¿Cómo estás? Quiero comprar unas cosas. And just say a bunch of Spanish without having to think, without having to struggle or look like a foreigner or anything like that. And so I kind of want to address that for the beginners who have those kinds of goals. So, can you learn to kind of get around, even communicate and have conversations in like several weeks? Yeah, like if you memorize the main tenses, you memorize the pronouns, common food names, place names, the expressions, you can make a little bit, stretch it, and make it go really far. And that's what a lot of the YouTube polyglots tend to do. And it is commendable because they're trying to show people that you can do a lot even with a little bit of fluency or a little bit of language, command of the language. Um, but in a way, it can be a little misleading because what a lot of people want is to. Every video I make, I crack my back at least one time. Yeah, so what a lot of people want is to be fluent. So, we don't want to mislead people either because honestly, when you go onto the path of fluency, you can take shortcuts and kind of language hack and really get into it quickly. But at the same time, it's a lifelong, it's not that it takes your whole life to become fluent, it's that it's a lifelong experience that you can enjoy forever. And I come from personal experience when I say that because I've been studying Chinese since I was like 12 and I'm 28 now. And so that's like more than 15 years. So, but I mean, it's not that it took me more than 15 years to become a fluent speaker. It's not that it took me a year and then I've just been a fluent speaker since then. It's just an ongoing thing. Even if you get to the point where you're like, wow, I understand. I don't need subtitles. I can speak and say whatever I want. You're always gonna want to know more. Like I want to know more idioms. I want to understand Chinese poetry, or I want to be able to read a book on a different subject that I've never read before, or I want to be able to go to a conference and talk about detailed topics with professionals. Like maybe whatever your goals are, you might have a lot of different goals, and those goals will kind of get added to it. It's kind of like you're you're learning to play a musical instrument. Well, you can learn to play a song relatively quickly, but if you're a pianist and you want to be a pianist, there's always going to be more songs. You can always get better and better. Even if you're at the top of the top, you can still enjoy learning. And that's what it is. It's a learning experience. So it's not really a clear start to finish. But if you have certain specific goals, like I just want to be able to chat with my friends, have a beer, talk about, you know, I don't know, girls or boys or work or whatever it is that you enjoy talking about, that's an attainable goal. You can get there and be like, okay, I'm good. I don't need to know literature or technical terms. And if you get there and you're satisfied with that, awesome. But that's one reason why it's very challenging to really say how long does it take to learn anything, because it really depends on a lot of different factors, what your goals are, if those goals change, if you want to learn more and more, and most of us will, at least on certain topics. That aside, I want to give my advice on how to learn a language as a beginner. Number one, please don't listen to the people that say, like, screw textbooks, you don't need textbooks, textbooks suck, they don't teach you anything, just listen. Just listen and talk. Or they'll tell you, classes suck, don't go to class, just watch YouTube videos about learning a language. Or just watch the show with English subtitle and really listen. Or they'll say to watch it without subtitles and really listen. All of that is activities that you can make to your benefit, but a class is helpful. A textbook is helpful. I mean, I have a mountain of books, and that's just a couple of those, there's a word search there, but most of that is language books. I got Kazakh, Intermediate Thai, Essential Russian, Yakut, Sakhatala for Korean speakers. So useful. I mean, I just love textbooks, guys. Like, even if I'm going to a class, even if I'm talking with friends every day, or I'm watching shows or whatever it is that I can also do to learn a language, or continue to improve in a language, I'm just steady with those textbooks just because I like it. Now, you might not be like me. You might be like, textbooks are boring. They can be sometimes. But you really want to take a little bit of everything that you can. Yeah, listen, speak, study, read. You don't want to just, all that doesn't work, because it doesn't work by itself. And it's true that if I just sit here, okay, I want to learn Kazakh, and I just study, read, write stuff, do my exercises, I'll learn some stuff, but I probably won't be able to understand. I probably will not be able to easily express myself. So I can't focus on just that. So it's not a really good YouTube video, because a good YouTube video, I would say, like, do this, and don't do that. But honestly, making use of everything that you can get your hands on, and trying to some level, equally improve your speaking, your listening, your reading, and your writing, they will all complement each other. If you can understand really well, but you never speak, speaking will be challenging if you don't ever go out and practice it. But if you're already able to understand really well, that's going to make speaking a lot easier. And if you can read and write, speaking is going to be a lot easier, because you already understand the written language pretty well. So honestly, that's tip number one. Don't discount anything. If you think a book is not a good instruction, the book that you have, find a better book. If you learn better from videos, watch more videos. But looking into the grammar, looking into some vocabulary lists, and using that sometimes is still going to be helpful for you. And that's something, and it's unfortunate, because I could be a lot more profitable and probably a lot more popular if I come out here and I just tell people kind of what they want to hear. If I just tell them, like, oh, never do this, only do my method, only do my course, only buy my ebook, or whatever like that, I'll probably make more money, but it's not really a good advice. I'd rather tell you guys what is helpful to learn a language. And step number two, it doesn't have to be hard. So, like I said, if your material is boring, find some better material. If you're hanging out with people that suck, like, you want to learn Korean, and you have 2 Korean friends, and they're a couple of complete assholes, and you don't even want to be around them, and it's making you not enjoy the language, then hang out with some better Korean people, because those 2 people probably just suck. And I mean, no matter who you are, where you're from, there's going to be some people that are jerks, some people that are nice, and believe me, having good people, like, I could personally thank, on a huge part, my ability to speak Korean and Chinese and Spanish and stuff, on the couple of amazing people that I've known who are native speakers of those languages, who have just been such a good friend in my life. So it wasn't even me like trying to get them to practice with me or trying to just use the language. It was like they were my friend and they were a really positive person in my life and brought a lot of good shit to my life just being in it. And then all that good stuff took place in no language, mostly because I hang out with people that don't speak English. That's another one. Tip number 3: find people, believe it or not, even if you're a beginner, find people who don't speak English or who don't speak English well. Or find people who speak English because they took it in school or whatever, but they don't really care. They don't need to be speaking English. Because you have some people like, I'm Western. Oh, I speak the Queen's English. Oh, I went to Oxford. My English is better than yours, and I'm not even American or British. And you're just like, okay, cool story, bro. Like, I'm proud of you. Those kinds of people are not the kind of people you're going to really have a good language exchange with or even have the ability to speak their language with them because they are just so into being Western. And I'm not knocking that if they're like from the West, if they're from America or they've been here a long time, cool, do you assimilate. But as far as actually us, Americans and English speakers, or anybody, but especially American English speakers, um, it's going to be a lot more beneficial to find people who you don't have to make them speak their language with you. Like, I have friends who are Korean who speak English. Like I said, they took it in school. They can speak it if they have to, but it's much more, they enjoy talking to me in Korean. So it's kind of a win-win situation. We're both happy, you know what I'm saying? So that's tip number 3. And tip number 4, which kind of contradicts tip number 2 if you don't think about it, is power through it. Suck it up. Because, and that's kind of a reference to a video I made with my friend Austin on this channel. That was kind of both our opinions about how to really get fluent in a language. Just kind of just suck it up. Like, this textbook might be boring, but it has a lot of good information. Just work through it. Just get through it. And that can be a lot more powerful than just only sticking to stuff that is easy and fun if the easy and fun stuff is not always informative. It might just be like entertainment that kind of teaches you a little bit. But if you really want to learn that stuff, you kind of got to buckle down. And the same goes with classes. Classes can be fun, especially if you got an awesome teacher like me. If you want to go to my iTalki page, study with me, welcome to do that. It's down in the description box below. But even if you got just an okay teacher, you're not friends with your classmates, but you're learning some information, finishing that class and not flunking out will add some significant amount of understanding of the language to your repertoire of knowledge. And so try to find the most interesting materials you can, but also there's going to be a little bit of like, you might be like, oh, damn, I'm struggling to remember all these words, or I'm struggling to learn this grammar. You can do it. Just don't think of it as hard. Think of it as fun. Even if the material is not explicitly entertaining, you can make it fun. Like, I make games out of it with myself, or I talk to myself. Like, I'll literally be talking to myself, like, how do I put this word in a sentence? And I'll just say sentences to myself. Or I'll be in a shower, and I'm just, like, having a conversation with myself in another language. Like, oh, what am I going to do today? I'm going to do this. What about that? Oh, I think that's a good idea. Like, I'm talking to myself. And you might look crazy. And honestly, tip number 5, don't be afraid to be or look crazy. Because if anybody's watched any significant amount of my videos on this channel or on my other channel, Studio Anderson, probably once in each video, other than cracking my back, I also at least once get confused and be like, what is that thing called in English? Like, I remember I forgot what a license plate was called, and I was like, that thing on the back of your car that has the numbers, and I'll just be like, I mean, it's funny, you might temporarily forget words, not just in that language, but in your own language, or just get confused. Like, when I go to speak Korean, and I haven't talked in a lot of Korean for a while, I might just automatically be thinking in Spanish. And this is kind of more of a polyglot problem, but even if you're just monolingual and you're becoming bilingual learning one other language, it can kind of happen. Like, you might be speaking Portuguese all day, and then you go to speak English all of a sudden, and Portuguese is in your head, and you'll be surprised how quickly that happens, even when you still feel like, oh, I'm still a beginner, I'm still learning. Um, that it can happen, and you might look a little bit retarded once in a while, but that's just part of the deal, guys. So don't be afraid to look crazy. I used to study on a bus, and I'd just be like, yeah, I'd be like, let me study this Chinese. I'd have my pen, be like writing everything down, like be reading this, like reading the sentences out loud. And some people were like, wow, you're a very studious young man. And then some people would, usually young people, would be looking at me like, what a nerd, this guy's weird. Is he talking to himself? What is he doing? And they'd be like literally saying that out loud, not that far from me. I could obviously hear them, and I'm just like, look, I don't care, because in a few months my Chinese is going to be dank, and y'all still going to be only speaking English. So I don't know about you, but I'll stick with looking crazy for the benefits of language learning. Um, and then last but not least, tip number 6. Um, so tip number 6 is be confident, but also more specifically regard yourself as a speaker of the language. So regard yourself, relate yourself to that culture, to the language, to the nationality from which they speak it. Yes, you're still an American, or whatever you may be, but if you're learning a language, eventually a part of you is going to be tied to that. A part of maybe your identity, your communication style, your friendships, maybe your career, what have you, maybe even just what you watch on TV, will have to do with that language and culture. And it will it'll affect your mindset in a way you'll realize over time. So don't think of yourself as, oh, I'm learning. I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to learn Spanish, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Hola, como estes? Mi llama John. You know what I mean? Like, you gotta really be confident. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Some of this is pretty classic advice, but it's oldie but goodie. Like, you have to be confident and regard yourself as a speaker of the language, even at the beginning, because that will really propel you. That'll really allow people to see you as that. It's kind of like, have you guys ever met somebody who lives in your country, in my case, the United States, and they've been here for like 40 years, and some people might be judging them like, oh, they've been here 40 years and they still have an accent. Most people don't judge hard like that, but you hear people say stuff like that, and you might wonder, like, hey, they speak English, but they have an accent. But you think about it, they speak perfect English. They can say whatever they want to say. They understand everything you say. They can read signs. They can read books. They can do business in English. They can make phone calls. They don't have any trouble. Maybe they still communicate in a style that they did in their native language, and that may happen with you. Maybe in the beginning phases, maybe for a while. It really depends on what your goals are. Like, I can speak Spanish in a pretty native sounding way, depending, because you got people from different countries, they can speak differently. I can't just do a perfect imitation of every nationality from the Spanish speaking world, but I can do a pretty good standard accent or Spain accent. But sometimes I don't want to. Sometimes I'm just like, look, I'm gonna just sound American today. I don't feel like it, and it really don't matter. If someone wants to say something, they can get out, because it doesn't really matter. So, but do you ever think there's people that live in your country for a long time that have a strong accent or communicate as if they were speaking their language, but they're speaking English? Do you think that they think, oh, I kind of speak English? I don't really. I'm learning. I've been here a good few decades. I'm still working on it. No, they're just like, yes, yes, yeah, man. I speak English. Like, I live in America. I have a business here. I do whatever here. I speak English. Don't you see me? Don't you see me? I'm speaking English to you right now. You can hear me, can't you? So you really got to think like that. It doesn't matter if you have an accent, or you sound this way or that way. If you're understood and you can understand the gist, or even if you're still in the beginning and you're just scraping by, you're like, okay, I'm just scraping by, but I'm getting there. Good enough. You speak the language. You are a speaker of that language. Okay, so that's it for my 6 beginner tips on how to learn a language. It's 20 minutes. Woo, long video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe. Leave a comment if you have any questions, or if any of you want me to make a video about another language related topic, or a teaching video about a specific things about English or about Korean or Yakut, and I will do my best to accommodate any requests that I'm given. Please leave me a like and a subscription because it really helps me, especially at the beginning stages of my YouTube career. I also have another channel called Studio Anderson, in which I basically speak my mind. If you are one of the ESOL or English learners watching this channel, I welcome you to also visit my other channel because you can see me and occasionally me and other people in a podcast style, just talking in a natural way in English. If you are not learning English, that's cool too. If you'd like to hear me talk, hear my opinions or my viewpoints. I kind of just talk about whatever I want on that channel, on any topic really. And I also do interviews or podcast style conversations on there. So welcome to visit Studio Anderson. Thank you for watching this video here on Mentally Interesting, and I will see you guys soon.